Belfast,
On
Northern
the right-hand
Ireland.
side there at the bar, there was a man, there's been a few people killed. There was a man killed there quite recently. Also a bomb through it. On your left-hand side, there's the chemist shop here, where there was a woman killed who was working behind the counter. What you see there is electronic barriers, which was local people demonstrated for to be erected because it was an access route.
Boundaries of hate and violence between neighborhoods.
A very, very dangerous.
This has been going on so long.
That's the way our life goes, don't we? We think we're going to get used to this after all these many years. We'll never get used to it. Never. Should go on till we die, don't we? Till our kids is fighting for it. We never be free of this country. Never. Our kids and our grandkids will be fighting to get us free. That's the only time.
History is different depending on what side of the fence you're on.
All the kids.
I was committed to the hitch blocks for 14 years or more. On the blanket, the conditions, they were poor. Now see the people singing it. And you dare to call me a terrorist. You have plundered many nations, you've divided many lands, you have terrorized our people, you rule with your iron hand.
First, there was Cromwell, tireless slaughterer of Catholics, who nicknamed him the Butcher. With him, Old Ireland became Britain's most prized colony. Violence, famine, and poverty. For 3 centuries, British rule repressed the Irish, colonized, deprived of land and rights, condemned to flee to survive. The first footage of Dublin at the beginning of the century. On the left of frame, the statue of Daniel O'Connell, the founder of the nationalist movement in the early 19th century, the first Irish Catholic to be elected to Parliament in Westminster in 1829. The first nationalists of the time fought for an end to discriminatory laws, the recognition of civil rights, and the reopening of a local parliament. The royal visit to Dublin. First mooted under Gladstone, the promise was made of an easing of the laws and of a future autonomous structure for Ireland, a promise which ran headlong into Protestant intransigence. Poverty and the slow progress of promised reforms encouraged the people to act. In 1913, the Dublin transport workers' strike for the right to unionize. The strike became a trial of strength which was to last 6 months, paralyzing the economy. Finally, the army intervened to break the strike. Arthur Griffith. 10 years earlier, he had created a small party, Sinn Féin, ourselves in Gaelic. His aim, autonomy. At the same time, others are planning for armed struggle. The Irish Citizens' Army and the Irish Volunteers, 2 competing militia. major shipbuilding port with prosperous industries, Belfast in the north seems more like a part of Britain than Ireland. Colonization in previous centuries led to the settlement here of vast numbers of austere, God-fearing Protestants, more in tune with their Scottish cousins than the Catholics of the rest of Ireland. They are first and foremost British subjects and intend to stay that way. The more the government seems to concede to the Southern nationalists, the more people in the north demonstrate against any change in Ireland's political status. The Unionists want Ireland to remain a province of the United Kingdom. No home rule in Ireland. Ed Carson, the most stubborn of Unionists, leads the movement, bringing with him the population of Belfast and the whole region to sign a petition against the planned autonomy for Ireland. So many people followed Carson's example that the signing took 8 days. In vain. A year later, the British Parliament passes the Irish Home Rule Bill. Betrayed by London, Carson and the Unionists begin training their own militia, ready to entrench themselves in and around Belfast. They will not give up an inch of ground. In Europe, World War I has just begun. In Dublin, the funerals of nationalist leaders give the militia the opportunity to demonstrate their strength and determination to the local population. The Irish Citizens' Army on one side, Irish volunteers on the other. Most hardline nationalists now see an armed struggle as inevitable. The autonomy they had so longed for has been suspended until the end of the war with Germany. War is raging in Europe. Many people enlist in the British Army, in the South and in the North, and yet this is not their war. Almost all those from the North are massacred during the Battle of the Somme. It is just then, the whole might of the British Army engaged on the continent, that around 100 nationalists move in to occupy the General Post Office and a few other strategic locations around Dublin in the name of an Irish Free State. Easter Monday, 1916. The uprising was intended to provoke a revolution, but the majority of the population rejects violence, seeing the move as an act of treason. They even applaud the rapid and brutal intervention of the army, bombarding the center of Dublin with heavy artillery. Isolated then crushed, the rebels are forced to give themselves up less than a week later. Among them is a future president of the Irish Free State and the future founder of Amnesty International. And also a woman, Countess Markievicz, known as the Red Countess. And Tom Clark, one of the three leaders of the uprising, condemned to death He was shot 3 months later. Clark's last moments and his last words were recalled by his wife in an interview in 1965, almost 50 years later.
He stood in the cell with me. It got about an hour. Well, even then we didn't talk about anything about ourselves. We talked about the future and the future of the country. And he said, all of us that are going out tonight, he said, believe that we have saved the soul of Ireland, that we have struck the first successful blow to freedom, and that freedom is coming. But between this and freedom, he said, Ireland will go through hell. But he said, Ireland will never lie down again.
14 other executions were to follow. "14 martyrs who transform public opinion. Behind the martyrs, a whole people now want independence. Hidden by the crowd at the funeral, Michael Collins, the only one of the rebel leaders to have escaped. He has sworn to turn the militia into a full-scale underground army, the Irish Republican Army, the IRA. Brave and willing, an efficient organizer, fine orator, and bon vivant, Michael Collins is a charismatic leader. Collins soon receives the reinforcement of those who became popular heroes in prison. Countess Markievicz, released in 1917, along with Eamon de Valera, the future president of the Republic. One aim, independence. One party, Sinn Féin. Ourselves. Militant nationalists flocked to Sinn Féin, whose national convention 6 months later shows the organization's full force. And when, in 1918, the British government tries to impose conscription on the Irish to reinforce its armies on the continent, a general strike paralyzes the whole country. Unions, political parties, the Catholic Church as one. The whole nation takes to the streets. Having won the subsequent elections, Sinn Féin immediately declares Ireland's secession from the United Kingdom and appoints de Valera Speaker of the First Irish Parliament. The British government immediately sends in the army to restore order. Proclaimed outlaws, the Sinn Féin members of Parliament pose one last time in the street, forming a symbolic human chain. Talbot Street. The IRA's first attack kills a British Army officer. Other attacks follow, minutely organized by Michael Collins. Martial law, roadblocks, curfews. Collins, a high price on his head, is nowhere to be found. By night, the head of the IRA, a scheming terrorist and sometime heavy drinker. By day, Michael Collins is Minister of Finance of the underground government. Always jovial, always larger than life. Against Collins, against the IRA. They are called the Black and Tans because of their black and khaki uniforms, enlisted by the British to fight the terrorists. The war between them and the IRA is merciless. Ambushes and bombings. Michael Collins still cannot be traced. Wherever the Black and Tans pass, crops go up in flames. Villages are destroyed. Inhabitants flee. The mayor of Cork is murdered. Factories destroyed. The center of Cork, the second city in the south, is torn to the ground. Waiting by the prison gates, a silent, immobile, fervent crowd encouraging and giving moral support by their very presence to the slow, fatal martyrdom of the hunger strikers. The days go by, nerve-wracking, trying, gloomy. Many die. Like Terence McSweeney, the new mayor of Cork, filmed here in his prison cell. He died of exhaustion after 50 days. The return of his body to Cork. All Ireland is there, united by the death of the martyr. At last, after 2 years of war, the British government gives in and offers a truce, the withdrawal of troops, the release of all prisoners. opening of the elected assembly in Dublin for a peace conference. Eamon de Valera and Arthur Griffith will go to London to negotiate the conditions of independence, accompanied by Michael Collins, the military victor of the war. The negotiations last several weeks and are followed by patient crowds outside the Parliament building in Dublin and in prayer outside 10 Downing Street. Ireland will be free. But while the British Army withdraws, a commission gets to work to define a delicate boundary between Catholics in the south and Protestants in the north, forcing isolated families to join up with the rest of their community a few streets or a few miles away. The price of independence. Partition. The island divided. 3 million people, 95% Catholic in the Irish Free State. And in the north, 2/3 Protestant, Ulster is to remain part of the United Kingdom with its own provincial government. In Belfast, King George V and Queen Mary are welcomed by a relieved and happy crowd. They are here for the opening of Parliament and the investiture of Sir James Craig as Ulster's Prime Minister.
We are part of Great Britain. I think I am right in saying we are the most loyal part of Great Britain. And all Ulster men rejoice in the close relationship between the mother country and ourselves.
The border. On either side, the police, forces of order, and other institutions are taking up their places. In the north, the RUC, the Royal Ulster Constabulary. In the south, they are recruiting, training, and equipping the soldiers of the new army of the Irish Free State. Arthur Griffith, Prime Minister, and Michael Collins. They formed the first government of the Irish Free State. Their expressions are serious. A hero of the fight for independence, but a realist nevertheless, Michael Collins, like Griffith, accepts partition, unlike de Valera. Furious, de Valera resigns as Speaker of Parliament and leaves Sinn Féin. The party is divided, split on this vital issue. The elections which follow give rise to a violent confrontation between de Valera against the partition and the division of the land of Ireland. And Michael Collins, partition is the price to pay for freedom. Michael Collins and Sinn Féin win the elections, but de Valera refuses to concede defeat. Guns are once more taken up. IRA extremists led by de Valera are determined to retake the north. On June 22, 1922, Rory O'Connor, leader of the IRA's extreme wing, gives the order to occupy the Dublin law courts. But this time the guns are Irish. It is the Irish Free State's brand new army which besieges and crushes the rebels. A heavy defeat for the IRA. In fact, it is the beginning of a civil war which inflames the whole country. During an ambush very much like this one, Michael Collins is killed on the road to Cork. The Civil War lasts 1 year, with more than 1,000 deaths, crops destroyed once more, and the economy with them. Exhausted, De Valera and his supporters are finally forced to lay down their arms, defeated and thrown into prison. In Belfast, meanwhile, unemployment, famine, and poverty affect a large section of the population. The discriminatory measures which deprive Catholics of jobs are already provoking violent clashes between the communities, encouraging the population to divide into separate ghettos, Catholics on one side, Protestants on the other. In Dublin, the Civil War is over. De Valera and his fighters released. Peace at last. Partition is forgotten. 10 years later, the Free State has already begun to live without a thought for the North. De Valera at last becomes Prime Minister and forms his first government. Which includes Sean McBride, the future founder of Amnesty International and Nobel Peace Prize winner. 15 years earlier, in 1916, he was part of the Easter Uprising, just like De Valera.
The present government of the Irish Free State has been elected by a large majority for the purpose of putting into execution a program based on the deep national instinct of the Irish people. This program aims at restoring the unity of this island and creating an independent Ireland living its own cultural, economic, and national life.
A poor, rural country almost entirely dependent on agriculture.
The economic aim is to make the country as self-sufficing as is reasonably possible. In all our work, it will be noticed that there is deliberately a strong bias towards rural rather than city life.
A land of smallholders whose poverty determined moral values and traditions. Catholic country which from now on has the right to choose to live by the rigorous rules laid down by the Church. Political power is conditional on the support of the Church. The state regulates social, family, cultural life, and education with the backing of the Catholic hierarchy. Such is the Ireland of Eamon de Valera, standing to one side of the war, once more ravaging Europe and the world. The Ireland of the quiet man. The Ireland of storytellers, writers, and poets. The Ireland of Joyce and Yeats. And when the poet dies, Yeats. Ireland is there like a family around the tomb. The poet has passed on. The years pass by too. De Valera, President of the Free Irish Republic, and a grandfather. So it goes in Ireland. So it goes with history, which transforms poverty and exile into happy myths and legends.
When my great-grandfather left here to become a cooper in East Boston, he carried nothing with him except two things: a strong religious faith and a strong desire for liberty.
This could be an ending. But there are some who do not forget, who bomb border and customs posts in the name of the IRA and against partition to free the North.
Do you still believe that violent methods are justified?
I do.
Why do you think this?
Well, I don't believe this is true, that the people in the North don't want to change the state. I believe the people of Ireland the whole people of Ireland want complete independence. And I believe the only way it can be achieved is by physical force.
then you don't recognise governments in Ireland, either north or south?
No.
The North has become a Protestant bastion.
We are fighting to protect the Christian faith. We're a bastion, an outpost of the faith that once was the faith of the British Empire. We are fighting to preserve the constitution of our land.
Most Protestants and Catholics live in separate areas. Here, God is not the same for each community. Here in a Protestant parish, God speaks over the telephone for the price of a local call.
Along the Niagara Falls, there is a signpost which warns folk of the danger of going beyond a certain point. Over a period of years, a large number of people have been swept to their death, and once they have gone beyond this point, there has been no possibility of saving them. It is like this with salvation. We need, dear friend, to live the holy and the pure life. Call again tomorrow, and God bless you today. Goodbye.
Could you live with a Roman Catholic?
Oh, no. That'd be among my own. Yes.
Anyone up here, I don't think, would like to live under Catholic rule. I mean, there's a lot of talking about, I don't know whether it was rumours or whether it was actually talk that Northern Ireland was going to come united and the rule was going to be under the Pope. And I personally, I wouldn't like that at all. I mean, I wouldn't live under the Pope's rule at all. Well, that's right.
What do you think is most worrisome about Catholic religion?
Well, they're under the rule of the Pope. They go by what the Pope says, not by their own feelings. You know, if the rule says now, don't take the birth control pill, they don't take it. They're not worried about they're having too many children that they're not able to feed. They're just going on ahead, having more and more children whenever they know that they can't feed them. Why? Because the Pope says they're not allowed to do anything about it. You know, that type. They're not really allowed to do what they want.
The Pope wants to flood the whole of the world with Roman Catholic children. And this is what's happening here in Ulster. We are going to be, they're going to bleed us out in the finish.
People in the Shankles say they'd hate the idea of one Ireland because the Pope would be telling them what to do.
Well, the Pope is a religious figurehead. He's not a political figurehead.
These people are Catholics living in a mixed neighborhood.
I believe he tells the people in the south, maybe not the Pope directly, but the church does.
Yeah.
Well, they do run a lot of things, you know. Which some people think the church is really ruining your life, but in fact the church gives you freedom of speech. You can do and say and vote for whoever you want. The church really doesn't put any hard and fast rule on who you vote for. Like, they wouldn't come along and tell you things like that.
Would you like to live in a Protestant area? But I have lived in a Protestant area. I lived in a Protestant area all my life. Up the Limestone Road, Northampton Road. I mean, we moved there from the country. I was 11-year-old. But the first year or two around the 12th, you got Fenian, such and such, go home, written on your back door. There was always a woman next door to us, a Protestant, that wiped it off. It never worried us, you know.
This is Fintona, a Catholic area. Mrs. Quinn and 3 of her 6 children. They all live in this house. This is Mr. Campbell and some of his 6 children. Another family of 8. Mrs. McWigan, Mrs. Pearson and her 5 children, Mrs. Mullo and her family, 8 children. They all live here. None of these houses has either running water or basic sanitation. For 10 years, the Public Health Services declared the neighborhood unfit for habitation. Catholics or Protestants, this is where the poor live, where unemployment is widespread, where the housing is unsanitary.
There are 5 of us here, my husband and 3 children for me and my husband. And this is a terrible place to live in, for the floor's ready to collapse altogether. And we've only 1 room made into 2, and we've nowhere to hang our clothes or nothing. Or we've no part here at all to move in. And
how long have you been here?
7 years.
It's in a terrible condition, and during the storm there last week, the wall cracked above the window, as you see, and the corner of the ceiling has fallen a bit. And we're loving eating and sleeping and cooking in 1 room, and all we have to cook on is the gas room. And we've no room for nothing. So we're looking forward, surely, to better conditions. Only for the children's sake, at least. It may be years now before we're housed for them here, because the corporation's not building.
The Orangemen, marching bands, bowler hats and flags. Every year they celebrate the victory of William of Orange over the Catholic king 3 centuries earlier. No pope here. Here, ever since partition, the laws are made by Protestants for Protestants. Full-blown apartheid, which begins at school. Schools for the Protestants, schools for the Catholics, each to his own, for life. Barred from the civil service and any municipal post, the Catholics are also prevented from working at the university and denied any active role in the economy. To live and work normally, most have no choice but exile.
When you leave the university, what do you think your prospects of a job are?
Very poor in this country. Just because I get very little satisfaction in living in this country. I think it's almost really promoting bigotry in this country. The people in this country are very, very friendly people, and they will give you jobs. But apart from that, there's not really any real opportunities in the country.
Have you or any of your friends ever had any difficulty with jobs, getting jobs in Belfast?
Well, personally, no, I haven't. But one thing did astonish me very much. I applied for a job in the catering department of Queen's University, and it was the catering officer's secretary who took the interview. And the first question he asked me was my address, and the second question was my religion. Now, I don't think this should be so in applying for any job, anywhere. One should not be asked the religion.
The jobs in this town are controlled by only 2 sources, religion and politics. If you're a black man, you can get all the work you want, but then you must be a Freemason. If you're a Catholic, they don't want you. But the people that are balanced in the state, both here, the 26 counties, and if here, Dublin, England, are the Catholic Church.
We must face the fact that the main difference between Northern Ireland and South Africa is the fact that we, the native population, are not black.
We are not regarded as equals of the others in the city. They try to make us feel and do everything in their power to ensure that we feel that we are second-rate citizens.
Second-rate citizens. Every year, the Catholics are subjected to the pipes and drums of the Orangemen, like some painful goad. History is different depending on which side of the fence you are on. For some, the sound of the drums reminds them that they have been defeated, colonized, and deprived of their lands for over 200 years. For others, it is a call to greater vigilance. Never give an inch of what has been won. But in 1965, the prevailing mood begins to shift. Terence O'Neill, the Prime Minister, is a moderate, a realist in favor of more flexible and generous policies towards the Catholics. He also knows that it is high time for the two governments, in Dublin and Belfast, to meet and talk after 40 years of ignoring each other. Sean Lemass, Ireland's Prime Minister, responds to his invitation. A meeting and handshake which immediately provoked the anger of the most outspoken of the Protestant extremists, Reverend Ian Paisley, for the right to housing, the right to work, electoral equality, and the end of segregation laws. The Catholics march.
Captain O'Neill recently said that the south of Ireland was a very beautiful young lady and that he was very glad to talk to her over the hedge. Of course, Captain O'Neill's a married man and he shouldn't be talking over the hedge to any young ladies. But I want to say this evening that we don't look upon the south of Ireland as a beautiful young lady. We look upon the south of Ireland as the refuge for the murderers of policemen and law enforcement officers and Protestants who will not bow the knee to the Romish field.
Those who will be the principal leaders 30 years later are already there. Peaceful demonstrations, resolutely nonviolent, on the lines of civil rights marches in America and against apartheid in South Africa. And on October 5th in Londonderry, the police, all extreme Protestants, charge. The scene takes place before the eyes of the foreign press and television cameras. General disregard for the most elementary rights of Catholics in Northern Ireland is now known to the whole world.
I want to tell the Ulster Cabinet.
In the following days and weeks, the Catholic protest movement grows.
Is going to continue until such times as every town, every village has fundamental civil rights, until houses are allocated on the basis of merit and not on the basis of favour. Until such times as
in the center of Londonderry, an almost entirely Protestant area, they meet up with the woman who will become known to the rest of the world as the Irish Joan of Arc, Bernadette Devlin.
The unionist shareholders of every factory got richer every year, while the ordinary people of this country.
On January 4th, a peaceful march from Belfast to Derry is ambushed by the Protestants. The police do nothing to protect them. Every week, the violence grows.
We are in the midst of a great crisis in our Ulster province, and the marching feet of the Protestants today cause the trigger to tremble. If this is the way that O'Neill wants to play it, we declare our intention from this platform that we will organize massive demonstrations.
Down with O'Neill and meek politicians, Reverend Paisley is running the show against the papists, the pacifists, and the moderates.
As the Ulster, where the loyalists shall walk, and shall walk without hindrance. And I'm pledging you, my friend, today that we're going to carry this battle to every end of this province until the day shall come when the Union Jack shall fly on every street and on every road. When we have promised it.
Only a tiny spark is needed to light the blue touch paper, just a few pipes and drums. On August 12, 1969, in Londonderry, the Orange Order's bands provocatively march up to the entrance of the Catholic Bogside neighborhood, under the eyes of the police who make no attempt to intervene. Insults and stones are thrown. Behind the policemen, armed groups of Protestants force their way into the Bogside, sowing complete panic. The Bogside is under siege.
What are you talking about in the barricades for there?
Christ, I'm many times have to spell it out to you. I am not asking you to hide behind the barricade. I am asking you to get A, the women, and B, the children.
Oh, what brought it on? 50 years of unionist misrule in Northern Ireland brought it on. All the people of Derry wanted were factories and homes. And what do they get? We've been beating our heads against a unionist wall. We have begged, we have demanded. And short of now taking what is ours, there is very little we can do. We can't say once again to the people in the Bogside, be tolerant, go home.
Scenes are repeated the next day in Belfast. British soldiers are sent to protect the Catholic areas. They laid down a barbed wire border between the two communities.
There was a couple of shotguns used, and we had nothing.
No shooting at all from your side?
No shooting at all whatsoever from our side, because we hadn't got nothing to shoot back with. All we had was stones and a wee couple of petrol bones we had. That was all we had. And then the armoured cut, when we beat them back, the Paisley Lights back, there was only about 50 men, beat about 100 Paisley Lights back. We chased them right over to Disarella Street and fought them there. Two of our lads were shot on the Crumlin Road, chasing them down Disarella Street. One was blinded, another one was shot in the legs. And then...
How many people now have been evacuated from this area?
Well, I reckon out about 300 people.
This was a Catholic Protestant area mix, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right, yes.
Do you think it will be again?
I don't think so. I don't believe so. I don't think it'll be a long, long time even before we can trust these people over here.
Between neighbors, from one street to the next, Catholics on one side, Protestants on the other, the British Army in the middle, a new conflict is beginning.